One of the fantastic things about Canva is that you have access to such a huge range of templates to use as a starting point. And we create templates for our sales pages and social media that are specifically designed that Canva users of any level should be able to easily amend them and customize them. But it still takes a bit of effort and a bit of playing around to get it looking like it fits with your brand and the way that you want your aesthetic to look. So today I'm going to go through some tips and tricks and hacks and show you some of the things that I use every single day that help me work quicker in Canva so that I can customize existing templates and make them look perfect for my brand. Hi folks, if we haven't met before, or you just don't recognize me because I'm not wearing black for a change. My name is Wayne, I am a creative director and a brand designer, and I help entrepreneurs to make a beautiful impact with their materials. So today I'm going to go through some tips and tricks to show you the way that I work in Canva that makes it quicker and easier to customize materials. So let's hop on over into Canva and I will show you each of those. So the first thing I wanted to go through was just showing you different ways to swap things out or change things over so that you can make changes all at once that work across your presentation or design. Here I'm just working in a presentation and I've got a few elements that I've put in. And the first I wanted to show you was how to just change text throughout the whole document. Now this is really useful if you perhaps have a presentation or a proposal that you use over and over and you need to change the name that's in it, or you need to change a date or even a price on a whole range of materials. So this is really easy to do across a whole document. So on the bottom right of this document, you'll see that I have my domain name and there's a typo in that. There's a double M at the end. So if I want to change that on each page throughout the document, instead of having to spend the time going and editing on each page, what I can do is click and select all of it and then hit Control F, which stands for find. And you'll see it brings up this little box which allows me to find and replace text. So if I just paste that in, it shows me that there are 6 occurrences of this in this document, and then I can tell it to replace with the correct spelling of that domain. Now I can just click replace all and it will do them all at once, or if I want to check on each one, I can do it one by one by just hitting replace and then using these arrows to move to the next result. I'm going to say replace all, and that's done. 6 places it was replaced. And you see if I scroll through here, they are all now correct in the bottom right of those slides. The second thing, which I think I've showed you in some videos before, is how to change a color throughout the document. Now, this is particularly helpful when you've downloaded a template that you're using, but it doesn't have your brand colors in. What you can do is just click on the color of a particular element or block. If you go up to the color option chooser here, and then you can choose the new color, and we'll just choose one of these down here, like this warmer color for the neutral. If I click on that, you'll see it changes that one box. But in the bottom left here, I have an option to click Change All. And it will then change every occurrence of that color in the document. The only thing to be aware of is if, for example, I wanted to change white, which is used as the background of this slide, if I changed that to a darker color and I changed all, as you'll see in the previews here, it will change it on every single slide wherever that occurs. The next thing is very similar, and that's to change a font throughout the document. Now, obviously, when you're working in a document, if you have a brand kit applied, it will show your fonts when you go to click to add a text box. But what you can do is when you're just in the design, if you have a font that's used throughout this presentation or throughout the document, if I click on it and then I just choose the font that I want to use, if I click on that, it will change that occurrence and it will again ask me if I want to change all. If I say yes, it will change all occurrences of that previous font to the new one that I have chosen throughout the document. The last thing that I wanted to show you with swapping things in and out is to change a logo. So you'll see this logo I'm using down here in the bottom. It's got text in around. There are no lines around the outside text. And I want to swap it for a very similar logo, but a different one. Now, the way that you do this is to go back to your home and to your brand kits. And then when you go into your brand kit, the logos that you have uploaded will show here. Now, that's the logo that I currently have used on all those slides. I want to swap it with this one here, which is a slightly different version. If I go to the preview of the one that I've used and click on the 3 dots, it will give me the option to replace across designs. Now, when I click on that, it will then bring up a window that shows me all the designs in my dashboard that use that logo. And I can either choose to replace it everywhere, which is great if you're updating your logo completely or swapping in a completely new logo, or I can just choose the one document, in this case, the Canva Hacks document we're working on. Then when I click continue, it will ask me to choose which one I want to swap in. Now it will only show ones that are the same proportions as the one that you're using. So it won't swap out a square or round logo for something that's horizontally very wide and only very short. So this is the one I wanted to swap in. I'm going to click on that one and it shows here in the bottom that I'm swapping the left-hand one for the right-hand one. If I then preview, it will show me that it's now on the bottom of all of those slides, and I can then just say yes, replace in that one design, and just like that, it has now swapped it in for that different logo. Now, a lot of the really cool designs in Canva for social media posts and other things often have different layers of elements. That's what makes it look so interesting, is that you can layer things and really create some complex designs and really beautiful layouts using it, but it can be sometimes a little tricky to work with those. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that you can do to make that easier. Here I've just created this very simple little graphic with some text and some elements from Canva. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is that these little golden dots are over the text, and I want them to be below that text so that they don't obscure it. So there are a couple of ways to do that. The one is that I can click on the element, right-click, and then I can choose Layer, and I can send it backwards, which means it keeps sending it back in that order until it reaches where I want it to be. But Canva have introduced a much easier way to work with layers recently. When you click on the element, if you click on position in the top bar here, you will see that it has the arrange option and the layers option. If I click on the layers tab, you'll see that it shows every single element that's part of this page, and it shows the order that they are in from top to bottom. So if I want those dots to be behind the text, I simply click on that element in these layers and click and drag it underneath the text. And you'll see now on the right-hand side, it has appeared under the text. If I said, for example, I wanted to have it below those curvy lines, I will then click and drag it even further down. And it now goes below the lines. You can see that little line is crossing it. So that's great. If I click off of that, I now have my design here and I want to keep working with that. But if I'm working really quickly and I want to be able to see what I'm doing and click and drag something to a specific position, I can't click on that layer because it's underneath other layers. Now this is another really helpful shortcut. What you can do is just hit your Command or Control key, depending on whether you're on a Mac or Windows, and then just click on that element even though it's not highlighting it currently. And because you're holding Command or Control, it will select the next element in those layers. And then you can click and drag that and move it around to your heart's content without interfering with the layers above it. Another often overlooked tool that Canva has is the ability to actually lock certain layers. Now, if I wanted to move things around on here, but I actually like where that organic shape is in the background, I just want to move the others. If I click and drag to select them all, every time I do it, I'm going to have to move all of them or try and deselect one of them. The easiest way to do it is to just go to these layers on the left-hand side, click on the three dots and click to lock that layer. All that means is that for now that layer is locked. So I can click and drag and select everything here and move it, and that layer will stay where it is because I can't select it because it is locked. I can very easily just click on the lock shape again, and it will then show the lock on the element, and I can click to unlock it, and then it's back to being movable like all the others with it. Another thing that makes a big difference in your designs is getting things aligned and making sure that things look evenly spaced. It really plays with the human eye if things are off kilter or not quite aligned, and it can be very distracting, especially if you're trying to communicate specific information. You don't want people distracted by things that are out of line. So let me show you a couple of things that are really useful for that. I want to use these elements here, and they're circles with a text box over them and a number in it. And the first thing that I want to do is make sure that they work as one individual unit, each of these. So what I'll do is I will select both the number and the circle, and then I can either click Group, which is this little pop-up that appears, or again as a shortcut, I can use Command, or if you're on Windows, Control, and hit the letter G for Group, and it will make those one group. So I can very easily click and drag and just group each of these so that they are now essentially 5 elements rather than the 10 separate elements. The next thing you'd want to do is you want these to all kind of line up. So if we want them to align horizontally, I would select them all, and then again on the left-hand side, I'll go back to the Arrange tab. And now you'll see I have the option to align these elements. So if I want to align them horizontally, the middle of each one, I can click on that and it will automatically align them. If I undo that and I choose to align the top, it will align all the elements with the one that's furthest up, that's furthest at the top. So if I click on that, you'll see they all move up. If I undo and I choose bottom, it will align them with the line at the bottom because that's where the lowest circle is. So that's great, and they're all in one line now, but you can see there is still uneven spaces between them. So the way that you can easily sort that is to just choose this little option under Space Evenly, and it will space them out horizontally, those grouped elements. Another thing that you can do is select them all, and in this Arrange option you can choose Tidy Up. Now Tidy Up basically just means that it aligns and distributes them horizontally and vertically in a way that is the most tidy. So it will basically do everything we just did up until now, but just with one click. Something else in terms of alignment that I wanted to just touch on, because it's something that I didn't know I could actually do for quite a while in Canva, is that each box that has text in it actually has an anchor point. And all that means is that if you add more text to that box, it fills the box from that point. So let me show you what I mean. If I copy and paste text into one of these that is a lot longer than what's in there already, you'll see that it populates it from the top down. And that's the default. Now, the way that you can adjust that is if you go up into the spacing tools, you can actually choose to anchor the text box from the top, middle, or bottom. The top is the default option. But if we go into this one in the center, we go to spacing and we choose to align or anchor the text box from the center. If I now paste that text in, you'll see that it actually resizes the box from the center out. If we do the same with the right-hand side, but we choose bottom aligned, it will actually use the bottom as the anchor point and populate or move the text from there up as it increases the text. So for example, this is one of the options for a header from one of the new templates that's for sale in our store. Now, if I use that same text and I paste it into here, if I hit paste, you'll see that it now crosses over those other elements, and then what I would ordinarily have to do is to move it up, then resize the text, then move it down again to make sure that it now fits. So it takes a few clicks and it can be a bit fussy. An easier way to do it would be to click on that box, go to spacing and choose bottom align, and now when I paste the text in, it keeps the alignment of that box where it should be, and then all I need to do is just change the font size and it fits perfectly and keeps the alignment. So it just makes it that little bit easier for you to get things looking neat and tidy. A couple of other things that I think are often overlooked, and I'm definitely guilty of doing this, is that actually Canva keyboard shortcuts can make it so much quicker and easier to work with elements in Canva. So I just thought I would go over a few of those, which some of you might know, but that I think are really useful and are starting to really streamline my process when I'm working, especially when I'm customizing designs in Canva. So one of the ones that I wanted to specifically highlight was how quick and easy it is to change text alignment. So you'll see here when I hover over this text box, it is aligned to the left. If I click on that box, all I have to do is use Shift and Command or Control, and then hit R for right aligned, L for left aligned, or C for center aligned. Another really handy keyboard shortcut that makes it much easier when you're fine-tuning designs is if you click on any text box, you can again use Shift and Command, and then you can use the little left and right arrow keys on your keyboard to increase or decrease your font size. And it just makes it so much easier because you can hold that down and let it resize until you're ready, and then fine-tune it just using those without having to then go up into the box, type in, or use these plus and minus buttons. You can actually do it all while just centered on that text box. It's a small thing, but it really speeds up your editing and formatting. Another couple of really simple commands that I have to admit I didn't use at all for a long time is easy ways of creating elements on your page, whatever design you're working in. And the first is that when you've selected on that page, if you just hit the letter C on your keyboard, it will create a circle. If you then hit an R, it will create a rectangle. And of course, if you hit L, it will automatically put a line in. So those can be created just with those one key keyboard shortcuts rather than having to go to elements and finding the ones that you want. Sometimes it's a little tricky to work with elements when they're over each other like this. And there's a keyboard shortcut that can help with that as well. So you can actually send elements back or forward just using the Command or Control key. And you can then use the square brackets. And as you hit those, it will just change the order of the layers so that you can, again, very quickly with a keyboard shortcut, just rearrange elements and make it easier to work with them. And the last quick keyboard shortcut I wanted to show you is something that I was asked about the other day because somebody wasn't sure how I was duplicating things so quickly without using the duplicate button. And it's actually very simple. If you want to duplicate any element in Canva, all you need to do is use your Alt or Option key, depending on whether you're on a Mac or Windows machine. Hold that down and click and drag whichever element it is that you want to duplicate, and it will create a new copy which you can then let go anywhere else on the page. So those are shortcuts mainly centered around tidying things up, alignment, and text. But I also wanted to go through a couple of quick ways for you to amend images and elements to match your brand colors. Because one of the things that I know people spend a lot of time doing is finding the right elements for their designs in Canva. And there are actually a couple of ways that are easy for you to customize those to fit with your look and feel. So on this slide, I've got a few elements and a photograph. Now, the photograph is one that I found and I really love the color palette from that, so I'd like to use that for my design. And then when I searched for summer, I found these really cool elements, but they're obviously all in the wrong colors. They're kind of consistent between the three of them, but they don't fit with that color. Also, I like these watercolor elements, but they don't allow me to recolor them. If I click on them, they're actually a photo, so I can't recolor easily in Canva. So I'm going to show you how to bring all of these in line and make them consistent. Now, the first thing I want to do is I'm using these little gray blocks that I've put here to put colors in based on the photograph. So if I select one of them and I then click on the color option bar, you'll see over here Canva allows you to see the colors that are in that photo. Now I'm going to just choose these and I'm going to populate these boxes with that color or fill these boxes so that I have a reference and can see how it all looks and how it all fits with this photograph. So that's a great color palette, and I now want to extend that to the rest of these elements. Now, the easiest way with a lot of elements in Canva is that they allow you to customize the colors with just a click. If I click on this one, you'll see at the top it brings up the colors that are in that design. So I'm just going to change these colors out. For example, the blue I want to swap out for maybe this kind of green khaki color. So if I click on that, it will change the blue in that element. But it will then again bring up this option at the bottom to change all elements that have that blue to having that khaki color. So if I click change all, you'll see it does so in all three of these. And then I can just do the same thing for any of the other colors that are in these designs so that I can get a consistent range of colors right across all of the elements that are in here. Now immediately you can see this now all looks like something that could work in one single presentation or design. However, that doesn't work for images that are essentially photos that are brought in rather than editable Canva elements. An easy way to do it is to go to Edit Photo, scroll along under your effects, and choose Duotone. Now immediately you'll see it brings up options for how you can recolor this just very simply. Now this effect does work best when you have elements with limited colors. Too many colors and it gets a bit complex. But for example, with these flowers, I want to start to create something that fits with this brand color palette of the photo. So I'm going to click down here on this one that says Classic because it's kind of neutral and close. And then if I scroll down, it actually allows me to choose the highlight and shadow color for that duotone. So to make this fit in with the rest of these brand colors that we've chosen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the shadows, click on that color, and then use this little dropper to select the dark color for the shadows. And I'm going to select that color from those color boxes or from the photograph so that it immediately applies that to that flower image. Then I'm going to do the same with the lighter color. And I'm going to bring in that very light cream. And there you'll see it already starts to look like something that fits with this. And of course you can do that again. Duotone doesn't destroy the image. You can actually go back and change those colors. So if I wanted to make this a little lighter and choose that middle color, I can do so, and you'll see it automatically changes that flower. And I can do that for this one, which is the blue one. If I go to the duotone, again it brings me up all these options, and I can start with any of them really, but if I start with the classic for this one, I can just choose which of these colors I want to use for the darker color within this flower, and I could even leave it white if I wanted to for the light parts of the flower. And you can see how these two are now completely recolored, but fit in with this overall feel of the brand, which makes it easier to create consistent and beautifully branded elements to apply to different templates that you have found or bought for you to use in Canva. As I said, Canva has so many templates available that you can play with and experiment with and try and customize to your brand. But if you're looking for a series of kind of elevated templates that are basically done for you, which include images and placeholders so that you can use them as they are or you can amend them for yourself, we are releasing our range of sales page templates and social media templates next week. So if you would like to be notified about that, and we're going to have a special opening offer for those, please sign up to my email list. The link is on the screen right now or in the description below this video. Sign up to the Meaningful Creations email list and I will let you know when those are for sale and also what our special opening offer is so that you can get some beautiful elevated templates, if I say so myself, and make it easy for yourself to create social media and sales pages all using Canva without all the fuss and with some style. That's it, folks. Have a fantastic week and I will see you next week.